I was supposed to speak somewhere, and I got a phone call the night before I was to do this. I was doing an invocation and a fundraising piece and with a social justice nonprofit. And I received that phone call, and it said, your father has fallen, and you need to come home because we don't think you'll live through the night. And then I thought, well, how do I get home? I'm in Florida, you know, they live in Florida. And so I decide, do I go or do I stay for the commitment for what I was supposed to do the next day? And so I feel for Leah because I know what she's going through back and forth, that feeling of, wow, do I go or do I stay? You know? And the question, what would you do? And so I went and I immediately called my friend. I said, I'm not going to be there. I'm going home. And do I stay 2 days? What do I do? So I actually went. So I really feel for you, Carly, and for Leah, and anybody in that situation. I went and I felt guilty, you know? I had a commitment and I didn't keep my commitment. And how many times have you done that where you felt like you let somebody down, you know? And so I wrestled with that for a long time. Finally, I forgave myself. I said, my daddy was more important, you know? And so let Leah know that her father is more important. And so I experienced a double pain, and I assume she's experiencing a double pain in that experience of the father being in the hospital, having a heart attack, and then also not following through with her commitment. But I'm expecting all is going well for them. And I asked you to do the same thing. I decided that I would have a title that says, I agree to a new dream. And because we were doing a series based on Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements, I don't know if you've read that, but it's a wonderful agreement of 4 agreements that he talks about. And so we have been doing, our theme was, I agree to a new dream. And I also thought about dream because I had an experience with a dream where I was having a nightmare. And I woke up a little bit, and I was suddenly able to change the outcome of the dream. I had a boogeyman chasing me, you know? And then I decided, wow. And then I read about lucid dreaming and that you can change your dreams in your dreams. And I would change my nightmare to a happy dream. So then the next day I sort of said, wow, I can maybe, we consider this a waking dream, that we don't see reality with our eyes. I mean, we know the concept of a glass being half full or half empty. Everybody has that idea that it's the perception that you have. So I thought, wow, a dream. I agree to a new dream. And here we are at a conference that's called Women Uninterrupted. When I heard that, I went, whoa, what a powerful idea that is. Women Uninterrupted. When I speak at church, this is my own empirical evidence. When I speak at church and I wear a pair of slacks and a jacket, the kind of like a men's jacket, people hear what I say. If I wear a dress, it's a whole nother story. Now, if I wear a robe, they can tell me the stories, the scripture, and everything else. I went, holy mackerel. Very interesting. So I usually am much like this on a Sunday morning because I figure people will hear what I say, and I don't just want to stand there, you know what I mean? I'm a child of the 50s and 60s, and I was properly socialized in that I deferred to my elders, I listened, I respected them, I followed the law, except for when it was a social justice issue, and like maybe we were desegregating someplace, which was against the law at the time. And I wanted a ring on my finger. When I was in college, a lot of girls got engaged. So I wanted to get engaged too. And so I wanted a ring to show everybody. And I wanted to get married, and I wanted to have children. It was sort of the way we did things. I didn't see women judges. I didn't see women doctors when I was a kid. I didn't see women ministers. So it seemed somewhat limited. We saw teachers, but even then, most of the teachers were men when I was a kid, you know? So I followed through, and I did. I got married, I got engaged, I had children. And when I got married, the first thing that happened was I had a dream that was dashed. We got married. I love my husband. I'm still married to him. 46 years later. So I mean, you know, I've been through it. Anyway. And we love each other. It's an amazing story. But I remember when we first got married, I wanted to work. I wanted the two of us to travel around the world. I wanted us to work our way around the world. And my husband said, "Do what?" I said, "We could wash dishes." And he said, "Not me." And I didn't want to go without him, right? So my first dream was dashed. And so there are things that happen in life. And Carly asked me, she said, "What do you do when life throws you a curveball? You know, what do you do?" Another experience I had as a young married woman, and we had moved to Illinois from California, and George was at work, and I was supposed to set up the utilities. And as I called to set up our electrical utilities and the water and that sort of thing, they told me I couldn't do it. And I said, "What?" They said, "You can't as a woman," because I wanted the utilities in my name. I could not put the utilities in my name. I had to wait for my husband to come home to talk to them for us to have utilities at the house. Now, I don't know what happened to single women. Maybe they had to have a male do it for them. I have no idea. But in my case, I was, ooh, you just don't know how I felt. You know? So I was a housewife. And right here in San Francisco, we were over on the wharf, and I won't say the hotel. But my husband and I and a friend and her husband were going out to dinner. And I was walking, she and I were walking in front of the guys, and I was about 20 feet in front. And we get to the restaurant first, and so the two of us, the girls, walk in, and the maitre d' says they won't seat us. And I said, "You won't seat us?" He said, "No, we don't seat unescorted women." Now, this was in the late 70s. That they would not seat. I said, "But we have reservations." I didn't tell them our husbands were coming. You know, I was just kind of fussing at that. But finally, the guys got there. And so when we're sharing with our husbands did not get upset about it. They didn't find that unusual. You know, I'm still married to George. Whoa. Sometimes you shouldn't remember things, you know. I remember being livid that they would not seat us, you know. And here the other husband was an attorney, and he didn't say a thing about it, you know. Anyway. Because I didn't know of school principals who were women, or judges, or ministers, or that sort of thing, I have to recognize now that many of us had the same type of dream that was going on, that we wanted to be able to do more. I can remember we had everything. We lived in Southern California, we had 3,200 square feet, we had kids, we had the cars, we had everything. But all of a sudden, to me, I had all those things I wanted that I had been dreaming, and then it was not enough. You know, it was like I was living a life of quiet desperation. And so I wanted to get out of that and do something else, so I went back to school. It's interesting when we need to change our dreams, and it's like if you have reached where you thought you wanted to go, It's like all of a sudden you have to start again. And so I encourage you to dream more. So many times our dreams are stymied for one reason or another. Ah, yes. I was invited to speak to a group of women in Japan. And it was the most amazing thing. We had a male interpreter. He didn't think that they were going to share much of anything with me because he was in the room. Now, this particular group of women were part of a group called the Buraku. And the Buraku, or the Burakuman, are people who are discriminated against. Although they are Japanese people, they don't have any color difference, but they're discriminated against because they were the handlers of the meat. They were executioners, they were people who would slice beef or just handle meat, and their family names determine what group they were part of. They were so discriminated against. If you mention it almost here to people who are a little older and Japanese descent, they turn their heads. They don't even want to know that they exist. So this was this group of women, and we were there for a conference celebrating the the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, most people here in the country don't even know that that exists, but it was chaired, the committee that put it together was chaired by Eleanor Roosevelt. So anyway, this group of women asked me things like, how did American women get to be equal to their husbands? You know? And then they asked me things like, we were told, they say, that they could not go to the Shinto temple when their menses were flowing because it was an evil thing. And so they wanted to know what I thought about it, being a minister, right? So they said, well, what do you think? I said, who wrote the rules? Who created that? Who told you that? It was a man. I said, so do you really think you're evil when your menses are flowing? They said, no. I said, so let's think this a little differently. So all of a sudden, there were like eyes that were bright and looking a little different and feeling like they could agree to a new vision, a new dream. I was glued to the TV when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. I was glued to the TV when Martin Luther King was assassinated and when Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. I can remember being there and crying and feeling the pain of that. And talk about being thrown a curveball. It felt like all hope was lost. You know, for any type of any type of equality in this country. But, you know, all of a sudden, everybody continued to work, they continued to dream, they continued to focus on Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, and things began to change. So let me say that when you are thrown a curved ball, that you need to surrender, that you don't fight it, that you acknowledge that it's happened, that you then pause and breathe. And when you pause and breathe, then you reset your course, you reset your dream. Maybe it's a spouse that wants a divorce. Maybe it's a boss, your favorite boss has been moved to another office, right? Maybe you broke a leg and you were an ice skater. Life throws us curveballs all the time. So the goal is for us to push through it, to keep walking. You just cannot give up. When I say surrender, I'm not saying give up. I'm saying surrender, acknowledge what is, it is what it is. And then you pause, go within, and then the next step is to reset, agree to a new dream, to do it a different way. So I remember reading, and maybe, do you know who Julio Iglesias is? Oh yeah? Okay. I wasn't sure, you know, it's an age difference here. And I was thinking, he wanted to be a football player. Were you aware of that? That he played football? And then he was in a car accident, and he could no longer play football. But while he was in the hospital, somebody brought him a guitar. And lo and behold, we have Julio Iglesias that we love to listen to singing. So I say surrender is the number one step when something happens. That you don't give up, but you just acknowledge that it's happened. And then you pause and get yourself together, and you breathe and reset your course and agree to a new dream. Deepak Chopra says, in the midst of movement and chaos, keep stillness inside of you. I like to say there's nothing that can disturb the calm peace of my soul. So we've come a long way. Women have come a long way. There used to be a commercial. I don't know if some of you might remember, it was a cigarette commercial, Virginia Slims. We've come a long way, baby. That was the commercial. And we have, and we are not to let ourselves get derailed and interrupted when life throws you a curveball. Surrender to it, pause and breathe and reset your course, and agree to a new world. We've all heard that it's a man's world. Are you in agreement with that? Some of us even use it as an excuse. So when I was asked to speak here and heard the words, women uninterrupted, I thought how powerful it was. Uninterrupted, unlimited, unbound. And I went, wow, that's what we're living. And I have lived through it. Not as bad as it was, but it sure is getting better every day. And so I thank you for allowing me to speak today, because transformation happens in this environment when we begin to dream in a different way. And so I'm asking you to dream and to see it as not a man's world, but as a woman's world. And I'm done.